Past few days, you are watching this young man all over the internet. He is Ibrahim Traoré. It is very rare in the recent history of Africa that someone gets this much popularity across the continent. But who is he? And why are millions calling him the hope of Burkina Faso?
And today many peoples are fighting for their survival, for their sovereignty, to live in peace.
Ibrahim Traoré is not just a political leader. He is a captain in the Burkina Faso army. At just 34 years old, he became the world's youngest head of state, and he didn't come to power through elections. He came through a military-led revolution. In this video, we'll explore the most important aspects of his life, his background, his rise, his beliefs, and how he may be changing not just Burkina Faso, but the future of Africa. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988 in the city of Bondakwi, a small rural town in western Burkina Faso. He grew up during a period of economic hardship and political unrest. From an early age, he was known to be quiet, intelligent, and disciplined. But what really shaped his worldview was watching his country struggle, despite its natural wealth. Unlike many African leaders who came from elite families, Traoré had no powerful background. He was raised by working-class parents who valued education and integrity. He went on to study geology at the University of Ouagadougou, where he was also active in student unions, a space where many future African leaders find their political voice. But instead of politics, he chose the military, joining the army in 2010. That same year, Burkina Faso began facing waves of extremist violence, especially in its northern provinces. Traoré served in some of the country's most dangerous zones, areas where the state had no presence, where villagers were being terrorized by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. He was part of the Cobra Special Forces Unit, a mobile task force designed to respond quickly to terrorist attacks. It was in these frontline missions that he saw a completely different Burkina Faso, one ignored by the capital, forgotten by politicians, and left to fend for itself. He also observed another problem. The military was under-equipped, underpaid, and poorly coordinated. At one point, soldiers were sent into active combat zones without basic supplies. Meanwhile, government officials sat comfortably in the capital, Ouagadougou, with full security, air conditioning, and international trips. This contrast disturbed Traoré deeply. He began questioning not just the leadership, but the entire system. Why was a country with gold, cotton, and fertile land so poor? Why was so little being done to stop the violence? In early 2022, frustrations boiled over. Burkina Faso's president at the time was overthrown by Paul-Henri Damiba, another military officer. But instead of fixing the security crisis, Damiba tightened control, delayed reforms, and ignored the complaints coming from within the army ranks, especially from younger officers like Traoré. On September 30th, 2022, Ibrahim Traoré led a group of soldiers in a second coup, removing Damiba from power. The public response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Many believed Damiba had failed to deliver. Traoré, young and uncorrupted, seemed like the answer. The coup wasn't just about replacing one leader with another. It was a generational shift. The average age in Burkina Faso is under 18, and for many young people, Traoré was a reflection of themselves, educated, bold, and determined to take action. The operation was executed with precision. Soldiers blocked roads, seized key installations, and took over the state broadcaster. In his first national address, Traoré calmly stated that the country needed a new direction, one rooted in sovereignty, dignity, and justice. While some critics feared more instability, others saw something different, the beginning of a Pan-African awakening. Traoré quickly made major changes. He suspended old military contracts, restructured defense operations, and started direct outreach to communities affected by terrorism. He visited villages, met with local elders, and launched food distribution programs for displaced families. Burkina Faso has suffered from chronic food insecurity due to the violence. Under Traoré's orders, several hectares of land previously controlled by militants were cleared and returned to farmers. He launched a campaign for food self-sufficiency and even began discussions on local weapon production to reduce dependency on foreign military supplies. Another bold move was his stance on foreign military presence. Traoré ended Burkina Faso's military cooperation with France, ordering French troops to leave the country. He also expelled French diplomats and restricted French media outlets, accusing them of misinformation and colonial interference. Instead, he turned toward regional partnerships. He strengthened ties with Mali and Niger, two neighboring countries, also led by military governments rejecting Western dominance. Together, they formed an alliance called the Alliance of Sahel States, vowing to defend each other and work toward regional independence. Traoré also opened communication channels with Russia, Turkey, and China, inviting investment and military training without the political strings often attached by Western powers. Internally, his government cracked down on corruption. Several officials from previous regimes were investigated or removed. New audits were ordered in public departments, including the mining sector, where billions had been leaking through shady contracts. Burkina Faso is Africa's fourth-largest gold producer, but most of the profits have historically gone to multinational companies. Under Traoré's leadership, the government suspended operations of some foreign firms for failing to meet transparency standards. In a surprising move, the country reportedly earned more gold revenue in just a few weeks of new oversight than in many previous months combined. The money was immediately redirected to military logistics, road construction, and electricity supply in rural zones. Traoré also launched youth mobilization programs, urging young people to take part in rebuilding the country. Instead of just training soldiers, he emphasized engineering, farming, and technical education. He wants Burkina Faso to produce more and import less. On the diplomatic front, Traoré gave several bold speeches in which he openly criticized the exploitation of African nations. He called for a new generation of African leaders who aren't afraid to say no to foreign pressure. He questioned the international order, debt traps, and the role of the West in Africa's continued poverty. Some call him anti-Western, but supporters say he's simply pro-African. Meanwhile, the people of Burkina Faso continue to rally around him. He walks in crowds without heavy security, speaks directly to farmers and workers, and encourages citizens to speak openly. For many, it's the first time they feel heard. But challenges remain. The insurgency is still active. Resources are limited. International sanctions loom. Yet Traoré has kept his focus, constantly reminding the world that Burkina Faso didn't choose poverty, it inherited it. Ibrahim Traoré is not a perfect leader, and his journey has just begun. But in a continent where hope often fades into silence, his rise has sparked a new conversation about dignity, about sovereignty, about what Africa can be when it stands on its own feet. The world is watching, and so are the people of Burkina Faso, waiting to see if this young captain can lead them not just through resistance, but into a better future.